All right, welcome to Train the Trainer for Make Your Vision Reality. This class was written as a 2-hour class, but I'm going to try and fit in the Train the Trainer portion into a 30-minute video. So this will move quickly, and let's get started. We'll start off with some CE policies and then jump into introductions. On the introduction section of this class, I want you to either make mental note, or if you have a lot of people in the room, maybe write out kind of like a little seating chart, or write some notes down on who has more experience in the business, who's brand new, and who maybe seems to have a high volume of sales. So the questions that the class is answering on this screen is really important for you to be able to leverage off of later when we get into really the vital activities that help develop our business, the lead generation activities. So you'll want to ask questions to some higher producing agents or people who are more seasoned in the industry. So be looking for your brokers and people who hopefully you'll have some people there who have 10 years plus in the business. Okay, so when people are answering the question about their best lead generation activity, of course, you're going to have some brand new people who don't know how to answer that one or don't have an answer for that, and that's okay. But the people who are excited about their lead generation activities, ask a few more questions. Ask them some very open-ended questions on how exactly did that help you in your business. I'm hoping that when I ask that question, I'm hoping that someone will divulge information on their production, how their production increased, and that will give us kind of some more insight into their level of business. I don't straight up ask people, what was your production last year? Because there are a lot of people who won't want to answer that. So, all right, get some good information on that screen. And then we're going to jump into, here's what we're covering today. When I talk about the GPS, I explain it as goals, plans, and strategies, because some people will hear GPS explained as goals, plans, success. And we're going to very carefully go over the strategies for success, and those are going to be what I call your vital activities, your lead generating activities, nurturing activities. How do you really gain business in this industry? So we're going to start off with harnessing the power of your personal goals. And it's really important to have a great energy for this class and be very focused on the class so that energy conveys. So harness the power of your personal goals. We'll start off with a quote by Robert Kiyosaki. This is the man who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it never hurts to mention that. Some people will remember that book. But this quote, the part that really means the most to me is that the value comes from the dreams money helps achieve. So it's really important for people to know their why. Why are they in this business? Why are they working so hard to achieve some financial goals? What dreams will those financial goals fund? So what is your why? When you're really identifying your why, that is identifying your bigger goals, maybe a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal, might be even an annual goal of something that you want to accomplish that has a financial obligation to it, okay? But we will start off, the handout's going to start off with talking about the 5 circles of life. Go through the 5 circles of life and explain a little bit on the goal setting here. What do these 5 circles really mean? I think it's the personal section that people get confused with. Spiritual is going to be spiritual for you, or maybe you and your family. Family, really focus on achieving a goal of maybe more time with your family, more time with specific people in your family, or specific activities that you want to plan with your family. On the personal side, personal should be personal health, and explain to people that this includes mental, emotional, and physical health. Okay, so it really captures all 3 of those. With the work goals, we're going to be setting a lot of work goals today, so we're going to fully cover that section. And then on the finance, remind the class that with the finance section, they want to identify those big goals, the 5-year goal, 10-year goal, or is it just a big annual goal that they want to achieve, and making sure that the people are looking at the financial obligation of that goal. And I'll give an example. I really want to take my son on a mission trip, and a lot of the mission trips require youth to be the age of 13 to go. So I set the goal of when my son turns 13 to take him on a mission trip, but then I had to do research on what type of mission trip would we do? Where would we be going? How much would it cost? It's volunteer work, but there's a cost associated with it for sure. But even down to getting a passport, it's not just the airfare there or where you're going to stay, the food, the passport, everything involved. So looking at exactly how much that's going to cost, and then breaking it up over a year's period of time, months period of time, per closing. Maybe they want to look at it and say, okay, for per closing, how much money do I need to save to make that big dream or big goal happen? Okay, so it's really important to hit on that in class, to talk about that, and to be passionate about wanting to achieve these bigger goals. When we get into talking about our big goals, I love the idea of living your legacy, and this is a fantastic quote to talk about the big goals, or get into that discussion. The idea is not to live forever, but to create something that will. And talk a little bit here about the memories we create. The bigger goals that a lot of people have are going to be trips they want to take with their family, or something they want to do with family, friends, or just somebody that's really special and important in their life. So we want to get people started in that direction of thinking, because this is going to be their true motivation for what they are doing in this business, okay? Next, we're going to talk about SMART goals. Let's cover SMART goals before we get into the worksheet and allowing them time to work on some goal setting during class. So SMART goals, we need to be specific. Your goal needs to be measurable. Of course, you want it to be something that you can achieve and something realistic, but you have to have a time limit. When is the goal going to be completed? Now, there are a few things with SMART goals that really stand out to me: specific, measurable, and time-bound. I feel, kind of in my world, if my goal is measurable and time-bound, and what is measurable is reasonable, and the amount of time that I'm allowing myself to complete it is also reasonable, then it should be achievable and realistic, okay? But you have to be very, very specific, and I like to give an example during this portion of class. My example is, I took a goal-setting class with a realtor named David Mathis, and David had us go through our 5 circles of life and write down our goals in our 5 circles of life. And during the class, he called on me to say, okay, will you share with us what you wrote down for your personal goal? And I said, yeah, of course. So I need to lose a little weight, so I need to start working out, and my goal is to work out 3 times a week. After I told the class my goal, David stood there and stared at me for what felt like forever. And it was probably only about 15 seconds, but it felt like forever. And he said, "Is that it?" And of course, immediately I knew, okay, I didn't do this right, because he's asking me if I'm done. So apparently I should not be done. And I said, well, yeah, that's all I wrote down. He said, okay, well, you're not going to do it. And I was like, wait, what? Did you just say I'm not going to do it? He said, yeah, you're not going to do it. You want to know why you're not going to do it? And I said, yes, I would love to know why, because that was actually my goal last year and I didn't do it. So he said, well, here's what you didn't do. You weren't specific enough. He said you needed to write down, what days of the week are you going to go to the gym? What gym are you going to go to? What time of the day are you going to go? And what type of workout are you expecting to do? He said, you also didn't measure anything. How much weight do you want to lose? I was like, yeah, okay, I don't even know. So got to measure it, right? And he said, and you didn't give yourself a time limit. How much weight do you want to lose by when? I was like, okay, yep, I totally messed up on this. So back to the drawing board. But give maybe a little example of how specific they need to be, etc., and that will really help people set them in the right direction. Then we're going to jump over to the worksheet in the book, and a follow-up piece to this is going to be for the rep to send out these worksheets so that they have another copy of the worksheet. So let them know you will be receiving another copy of this worksheet, so feel free to write on this one, and you can reevaluate and kind of change it up a little bit if you need to later. So we're going to allow 10 minutes for the class to work on their goal setting. For me, 10 minutes is maybe enough time for me to cover a couple of my goals. Maybe I can get through my 5 circles of life in 10 minutes, but I need more time to really think about and plan out my goals. So let the class know, hey, if you don't finish all of your goals, that's fine. Maybe pick out your top 2 or the top ones that you really have some ideas for right now and focus on those. Some people in the class will get through all 5 of their circles of life. I haven't had anyone yet do all circles of life and their big goal, but we'll see. Just try it out and see what happens. The big goal, I left a blank for my blank year goal so that they can fill in, is it a 7-year goal, is it a 5-year goal, is it a 10-year goal? They can set it to whatever length of time they want, okay? Then we will start the timer for their work time. And what I have found that is important for me to remember during the 10 minutes is don't talk during the 10 minutes. I feel awkward when I'm teaching a class or leading a class and I have 10 minutes where I'm not saying anything at all. So I do like to leave the room for maybe the first few minutes, maybe even 5 minutes, leave the room and then come back. People might have a few questions, but I want to limit people from talking even amongst themselves or to me during this time, because some people have to have the silence to focus and concentrate, okay? So try to keep it as silent as possible during this 10-minute time period. All right, after the 10 minutes, you can definitely ask for some feedback, ask if somebody would like to share one of their goals, and remind them that they need to share these goals with somebody, okay? The accountability portion is really important, and I do also share that with my weight loss goal or my workout goal, I did find an accountability partner. And it just so happened to be my son. And yes, he was only 7 at the time that we started. Actually, he was 6 at the time that we started this, but that's when he started boxing. And when we would go to the gym, he'd say, well, Mom, you're not dressed appropriately to work out. Because I'd still be in my work clothes sometimes. He's like, Mom, you're not dressed appropriately. You need to go change. You need to work out. Aren't you going to work out today? And that grew just over a couple of years. That grew to him asking me questions like, how did you feel about your run today? How far did you run? Did you run further than you ran last time? So the accountability really grew into more of an accountability partner, which was fantastic. He keeps me on point. So my point is, find an accountability partner. It doesn't always work well to have that be a family member. Okay, so when people say, oh, I have my spouse hold me accountable, I say, well, you might want to rethink that. But for some couples, it does work. All right, moving on. We're going to move on to the law of attraction. In the handout, on the page that talks about goal setting, the bottom of that handout does address the law of attraction. There's a paragraph about the law of attraction. I don't typically like reading from a handout or reading from a screen slide during a class, but I would say read this paragraph. Either read the paragraph out loud or know the paragraph well enough that you can hit the key points. One of the key points here is the visualization and the feeling of joy that you have when that goal is achieved, when that dream is achieved. You need to feel the joy now that you already have it, you just don't have it yet. Okay? That part is extremely important. If you haven't watched any videos or heard anyone speak about this, I would encourage you to look up some videos on the law of attraction and see what you can find. Jim Carrey has a great story. I want to say he talks about it on the Oprah show, maybe is where I heard it. Anyways, there's a video on YouTube. So you can look up Jim Carrey and the $10 million check. Look up the video where he wrote himself a $10 million check and how that came true. Also listen to him talking about how he used to drive around in a really old beat up car that barely ran, but he would visualize himself driving the brand new car that he really wanted, and how those visualization tools made everything came to fruition. Now, when I was talking about this in a class about a year ago, I had a realtor in the classroom who almost came to tears during this part of the discussion, and she said, "Hey, I would really love to share my story. Do you have a minute for me to share this?" And I said, "Absolutely." Her name is Daphne Cates. It's like Stephanie but with a D, Daphne Cates. And Daphne told her story about how she already had 2 grandkids, and her son was expecting twins, and she had just found out that her son was expecting twins when all of this took place. And at the time she found out he was having twins, she was a little panicked over the fact that her vehicle would not accommodate 4 car seats. So she said, "Oh no, I had a lot of anxiety about this. I was kind of sad about it. I felt bad that there's no way I can get 4 grandkids in my car. It's not big enough." And this all took place, her finding out this news all took place just a few weeks before the Austin Board of Realtors held their Realty Roundup. Now, Realty Roundup and the Austin Board of Realtors is known for giving away a luxury vehicle during that event. And I want to say they usually give away, I want to say maybe it's a BMW. It's either a Mercedes or a BMW. I'm pretty sure it's a BMW. A luxury vehicle, and they had just announced that the luxury vehicle that year was going to be an SUV. And she was like, "Oh my goodness, I need that vehicle in my life. I need that SUV. And this is a perfect opportunity where I can win this SUV for my grandkids." So Daphne talks about how she purchased 3 lottery tickets. She posted those lottery tickets up in her workspace. So she just taped them up in her workspace where she could see them every day in her home office. And she demonstrated in the class how she would give them little kisses each day. So she kissed her fingers and touched the lottery tickets. So she'd give them 3 little kisses every day. And she said the really powerful part, though, was when she would go somewhere and she'd get in her vehicle, she would sit there for a minute while her vehicle warmed up, and she would imagine herself in that brand new vehicle. Now, of course, what does that mean? That means I have to know what that new vehicle looks like inside. You have to go to that extent in the visualization. You have to know what that vehicle looks like inside. If you've sat in it, that's even better. Go sit in the vehicle you want. Smell it. Feel it. Feel how the seat hugs your body. Okay? Look at the back seat. Imagine those kids in the back seat of the car. And that's exactly what she did. She said she would visualize herself in the vehicle, and then she would adjust her rear view mirror as if she was looking in the back seat of that vehicle and imagining 4 grandkids back there. Okay? This is how the law of attraction works. And she would feel the joy of having all 4 of her grandkids with her there in the vehicle. So amazing, amazing, amazing. And what ended up happening, and of course, she won the vehicle. So just a few weeks later, she won that vehicle. Okay, so very powerful story. I would encourage you to either create your own vision board to show during class, or you can utilize the one that's in the presentation. This is a great example of a vision board, and let people know, hey, you can create your vision board any way you wish. You can cut out pictures from a magazine, you can download some pictures from the internet, and create your vision board online if you want to. So some people will have a physically printed out vision board or something they create on a poster board, and others might want to have a digital vision board. I created mine with Canva, so what you're seeing here in the presentation, this was created via Canva. And I have my vision board as my screensaver on my computer. I have it as my screensaver on my phone where I can see this all the time. Again, the feeling that you get when you look at the vision board is what is most important. Okay? It's all about the feeling it creates. And then we're going to end the goal setting portion with this quote. Love this quote by Napoleon Hill. Cherish your vision and your dreams, as they are the children of your soul, the blueprints of your ultimate achievement. Maybe read this one twice. And I get very passionate about this part of class. I will spend a good portion of time on the goal setting because it's that important. And encourage your kids to daydream. Okay, quit telling your kids stop daydreaming. Nope, daydream more. Daydream harder. And really create what it is you want in your life. So encourage people to really hit those dreams. Then we're going to go into the financial goals. And during the financial goal setting, we're really giving the class some homework to do. They might be able to do a little bit of it during class if they want to get into the spreadsheet portion or calculator that I'm going to show you. But determining your financial goals takes two layers. One is going to be outlining your personal expenses. Encourage the class to maybe use a spreadsheet at least once to look at what are you spending on a monthly basis in your personal life. What are your financial obligations, and what are you spending that maybe you could reevaluate and say, well, I could spend less in this area, this entertainment area, and save more money for my bigger goals. Okay, so encourage them to use maybe a spreadsheet for this. I found a great spreadsheet online that I personally use. All I did was a Google search for personal expense spreadsheet. Okay, if you look up personal expense spreadsheet, you can find some great Microsoft tools out there where all of the formulas are already built into the calculators, right? Then we're going to outline our business expenses, and they do not need to Google anything to find a worksheet for the business expenses and calculator. We've created that for them. So what we're going to be showing them is two parts of our calculator. One is a worksheet where the agent is going to record their business expenses. And then the other portion of it is a calculator that helps them estimate their plan for goal achievement. And that plan is going to come down to how many transactions do I need to complete to hit my goal, and how many appointments do I need to set to convert those leads over to business. Okay, so this calculator is going to be put online sometime this week. I believe is the goal to have it online this week on independencetitle.com under the tools section. And right now I'm just emailing it to the people in the class. So I try to do that either during our break or at the beginning of class, or have the rep do it for me during class, so that they can have these calculators. Explain to them just how to fill in the information. I would also recommend for you to have some details on what the local MLS fees are. The fees that you see here, this is for the Austin area. So that's MLS and key fees for the Austin area annually, okay? Just remember that they most often will pay their MLS dues more than once a year. So what's the annual cost and their board and licensing fees? Again, this is for the Austin area. I also included the Trek license renewal fee into this amount. It's paid twice a year, but I broke it up for them to save annually to have that money ready for their 2-year license renewal. You want to look these figures up and know what they are. I put notes in the spreadsheet only regarding the license renewal fee, which is $110 for agents, $217 for brokers. But look up what your local board fees are so you can have kind of an idea, a rough idea of what that would be. They're typically right around between $400 and $430 a year, or you could say $400 to $450 a year. All right, then we're going to develop our plan for our goal achievement. We know how much money we need to make to cover our personal expenses, our business expenses, but what's our plan to reach that goal? This is a great quote by Pablo Picasso. Read it out to them and really hit on the fact that they need to fervently believe in their plan and they must vigorously act. That one is really important. In fact, after I read this quote, I'll ask people who here feels like they were vigorously acting in their business last year. And you'll usually get a few people who laugh about that one and say, yep, nope, I definitely was not vigorously acting. So read this quote out to them. Then we're going to explain that your plan for goal achievement will outline the number of transactions you need to complete and the number of appointments you need to hold. And that's according to your conversion rate. How many appointments do you need to hold to complete that number of transactions? And we are going to be utilizing our calculator for that portion of class. Hopefully they'll be able to go ahead and open up on their computer if they brought a computer with them. If not, that's okay. They're going to have this available to use from home. Explain how the calculator works with putting in your take-home income, your desired take-home income, adding in your tax rate. Mention to them that the link for the irs.gov, the tax bracket info, that's a real link. You can open up those tax brackets and adjust the tax rate if you need to. Notice that on the screenshot, the business expenses say 0. The business expenses will populate from the worksheet that we previously showed. Okay, so as long as they complete that worksheet, the business expenses on this screen would be filled in. Then they're going to enter in their average commission rate. On the average commission rate, coaches have told me to put in 2.5 instead of 3% because you might have a move up or move down where you discount one side of your commission. Okay, you need to know your average sales price. We'll take a look at a few tools in the MLS that can help people know their average sales price, put in their commission split with their broker. Then they'll move over to the right-hand side where they're putting in their percentage of buyers and sellers. For brand new agents, if they're stumbling on this part, remind brand new agents that they're typically working with more buyers than sellers when they start off in the business. So I would tell them I'd encourage them to put in maybe 80%, 75-80% buyers, the rest would be sellers. And then what's your success rate? The success rate is conversion rate from a lead to a client to a closing. What is your conversion rate? Conversion rates vary depending on where your business is coming from. If you have a high volume of referral business, your conversion rate is usually pretty high. Okay, but if an agent is working online leads or cold calling, the conversion rate for those activities is considerably lower, and online leads on average, the conversion rate is less than 3%. Okay, less than 3%. So they do need to enter in a reasonable conversion rate here. For new agents, tell them to go low. Okay. All right. Then the bottom half of the worksheet will provide results. And your results, you'll notice, outline the number of transactions I need to complete, the number of closings per side, seller side and buyer side, and then the number of listing appointments I need to hold to convert that level of business. So overall, I'm looking at, I need to hold at least 20 appointments with this type of conversion rate. So if I have a high conversion rate, I need to hold at least 20 appointments to gain and convert that level of business. The next screenshots are going to be screenshots from Matrix. If you're in a market area that doesn't use Matrix, if you're in the San Antonio area, you'll want to see if your MLS has some similar tools, which for some of this it definitely does. I don't know if it has the market reports, but for a seasoned agent, for someone who is more experienced, if they haven't been tracking their business, which they really should be, and you want to encourage them to track this, seasoned agents should have a good idea of what their average sales price is. If they don't, encourage them to go into Matrix, not right now, but when they're doing this homework, go into Matrix and run a market report. They're going to run the agent production and inventory report and run that report for the prior year to see how many transactions did you complete and what was the average price. This report is only going to generate information for sales that took place in the MLS. So if they sold any for sale by owners or builder homes that were not listed in the MLS, that inventory will not be reported here, okay? Or production won't be reported here. So tell them to keep that in mind. For newer agents who don't have production to track, I would encourage them to run some stats. You might have somebody in the class who says, well, can't I just do a quick CMA? Yes, you can. I like to show the stats because a lot of people don't use it, and I want to open their mind to a new tool to use in the MLS. But I like to run stats over a 2-year period so I can look at the year-over-year change in pricing in that area and see, do we have a lot of movement in pricing, or is the pricing holding pretty steady? Okay, so you can explain to them how to run some stats in the MLS. They can run a map search. They can run a search by city if they want to keep it more generalized because they don't have a specific subdivision they're going to farm. They do want to look at this because when boards release stats, it's usually pretty generalized. I do explain to people that the Austin stats that are released, if you look at the fine print on it, it's Austin and Round Rock, which I find interesting and weird because we're going into a whole nother county and we skipped Pflugerville, which is part of Travis County. But they're not including the stats for Pflugerville in there, but they are including the stats for Round Rock, which is odd. So city stats are really important to look at individually. What are Austin prices versus Cedar Park versus Leander versus Round Rock? And what area do you think you would be doing the majority of your business? Or drill it down to a subdivision if you're going to farm a subdivision. I'm going to click one time and it produces the chart. So this is the data that the stats will produce. And you can see here that I can compare year over year and per month how prices have changed in that area. What am I looking at for my commission rates? All right, so I'm going to stop the video right here. This will be part 1. I wasn't able to finish all of the Train the Trainer in 30 minutes, but we will pick it up with another video for your strategies for success and outlining what the vital activities are. All right, so be looking for that video. This one's part 1.